Code it now. Given the list of names below, initialize a 5-row, 2-column, 2D array with the values and print it out as a table. Okay, so I'm not going to read off all these names, but let's just go to a JGrass window, create a new file with Control-N, enter to select Java as the default language. Let's go back to an old file, such as this one, and let's copy all the contents with Control-C. And then let's go back to the Untitled window, paste with Control-V. Let's change the name of the file in this top-level comments to NameTable. Sounds like something reasonable. NameTable for the class declaration name as well. Let's get rid of this old code that we will no longer need. There we go. Let's scroll back. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is initialize our array. So let's go over here. It will be a string array of arrays. And we will just call this names equals. And let's start filling in what we need. So first curly brace for the entire array. And then we need our 5 rows. So 1, let's put in some spaces actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 rows here. And then in each row we have 2 values because there are 2 columns. So let's just start filling them in. So it seems like this is the order they want us to iterate over with the names. So we're going to want to fill it in as Mike Joe for the first row. So Mike Joe. And then we go on to the next row for the next 2 names and so on and so forth. So Emily, Katie. Then we want Nicole, Laura. We go on to the next row. We need Dixie and Steve. And the very last row, this should be, so Chris and Sean. All right. And of course, just make sure you use double quotes for all the names and that there are 2 names per row. And it looks like we did that, so we're good. And now we can go ahead and start writing some other code, but let's just add a comment quickly saying print out all of the names into a neat table. Okay, and now we can create our for loop with the nested for loop inside of it. So for int row equals 0 as long as row is less than names.length. We do a row plus plus. And we need our curly braces. Oh, too many new lines. And for int, and let's just do call instead of column. Call equals 0 as long as call is less than names row dot length. We do a call plus whoops, plus plus. And then we need our curly braces again. And now we can actually fill in what we need inside of the for loop. So for the very inner for loop, this is where we want to print out the specific line. So, the specific row, the 2 names in each row. So we can go about this by using system.out.print. And remember, right now inside this inner for loop, we're iterating over all the values in a row. So we don't want to use println because then we would end up, we would end up with something like Mike and then beneath it Joe and then Emily. But we want Mike and then right next to the right of it we want the value Joe. And then we want a new line so that we can start adding in the next row. So that's why we use print instead of println. So print, and we want to access names, row, call. Remember, we're doing row major order. And then we need to add a space because we want space in between the names. And there we go. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to go outside of this inner for loop, but still within the bigger for loop, because we want to add a new line after finishing each row. So system.out.println, and we can just use println with no arguments, and that'll just print out a new line for us. It looks like that's it. So Control S to save, Enter to accept, Control B to compile. Great, compiled successfully, and then Control R to run. And yes, it looks like it printed out correctly. So we have on each row 2 names, and we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. Perfect.